Do I just start talking? I mean, where do you even... I've not done one of these before. I guess you went away the main bit, and yeah, I did. I smothered Grumps with that pillow, sure, but I did it out of love. You should know that. I don't want you thinking I'm some sort of heartless bloody sociopath, because the hardest thing that I've ever done, and anyway, it's the context, ain't it? That's what's important. But it's true. It weren't right. I haven't been for some time. Not since that skydiving accident a year back. 84 years old, nearly 85, and you gotta ask yourself, what were they doing letting a nearly 85-year-old jump out of a fucking aeroplane? But apparently I were the humbug, because they were doing it for charity. And I said, well, it don't matter whether it's for a night with Sam or bleeding Hayek, you shouldn't be doing it. The money we were raising was for Wings for Life. I mean, would you believe it? Every penny he raised went straight into his own treatment. Poor bastard was bedridden. Paralysed from neck down, and we're talking a fella here. Fittest fella you've ever seen. Well, back in the day anyway. He was always up to something or other, making some far-flung corner of the world his own. He used to sit me on his knee and he'd say, listen, pet, the universe is a kinky old bitch, so have a bit of fun with her. He sure as hell did. He'd have his breakfast in the Rockies and he'd be in Timbuktu for tea. Do you know he's the only bloke in the history of the world to have crossed the Bay of Bengal on a lilo? And he did it twice. There and back again, because he didn't like the look of the Burmese coastline. We've been reading this book together. That was what got the ball rolling, really. Tried telling him about audiobook and that, but we're having none of it. Men of a certain generation here, set in their ways. Anyway, this book, about this whole reincarnation business. You know, lead a good life, come back as a puppy, be a cunt, come back as a rock. Like what they teach you in RE, that kind of thing. Like that message a lot, me and Grumps. I think he subscribed to it quite a bit in the end, which made me feel a bit less guilty doing what I'd done. See, the sight of him helpless in that bed could break a girl's heart, and I told him that. I did. I said, Grumps, listen, this ain't right. It ain't you. And he agreed with me. Because I don't care what some folk could say, but it's no life, that. Lying there, day in, day out, having your arse wiped by a well-meaning stranger. That's when I got to reading about alternative options. Well, that's what this article called them anyway. See, I do like to read. You learn a lot about stuff. All the stuff people don't tell you or want to try and keep from you. And this one was going on all about Switzerland and this, what's it called? Euthanizing. I thought that sounded, you know, plausible. And of course, I'd be sad to see him go, but at least he won't be trapped no more. Get proper clammy when I'm talking too long, you know. Anywho, Grumps was all for it. He told me to keep it on to DL though, because there was a few in the family wouldn't take kindly to the idea of a suicide, assisted or otherwise. Our Auntie Sonia still gets a hard on for songs of praise, so she'd be the first to take issue, and my mum would be just behind on principle. I wouldn't say she was religious, me mum, you know, per se, but she won't drink out to mug our boat in Secret Santa at work because it's got written on it, man is the missing link between ape and civilised human being. She said she worries that God wouldn't like the sentiment. That's a bear I'd rather not poke, Stella, if you don't mind. That's what she says. Point is, I had to do it all on my own, so it took a few paychecks to get the money together for me and him and a nurse who was sympathetic to the cause. And no, I won't mention her name because I ain't in the business of grassing anyone in. But, you know, I couldn't have been doing all the care myself. Not like that. Not the level Grumps required. I didn't mind putting money together for all that, because it were for the cause. I had flights booked ready and all. 2 days away we got to leaving before someone caught wind of what we're up to. Next thing I know, I'm in the bleeding kitchen making tea for Father Michael from church, and he's up in Grumps' bedroom spinning him all sorts of scare stories. I remember him too, that priest, coming into school back in the day when this girl, Becca I think her name was, she took her own life because a load of the lads had passed around these pictures of her doing all sorts with the TV remote. We were all made to go and chat to Father Michael about how we're feeling, like it was some kind of counselling session or something. I think they thought all those girls, had made some sort of suicide pact. Like in that film with What's-Her-Face and Spider-Man. What it was though was just this old priest, Michael. I swear he was a wrinkly old fossil even then. And he was sat in the nurse's office with a little cross of Jesus he put next to the tampon box. And what we thought was just, an opportunity to let out how we were feeling and that. Well, it was just him going on about how we shouldn't allow ourselves such dark thoughts, and if they came to us, then we'd be breast praying to God for help. I tell you, I was that close to telling him I was 2 minutes away from topping myself if he kept lecturing on like that. I thought you do realise a girl is dead here, don't you? But I didn't say it out. I know when shot me. Anyway, here he was again, upstairs with Grumps with a closed door, but I knew the convo that were going on because it was the same he had with me back then at school. And he went and talked Grumps out of it, didn't he? Father Michael told him it was a suicide, like any other this euthanasia, and that suicides didn't get into heaven. He was never a particularly superstitious fella, Grumps. Not even religious either, despite me gran having a season ticket at the communion altar when she were alive. Most of that rubbed off on our Sonia anyway. Wouldn't be enough faith left to go around even if the rest of us did want it. Grumps so, well, I always kind of stayed out of it. It scared the flesh off him with all that talk of eternal damnation. Nosy old priest was barely out at the door before Grumps was just telling me he didn't feel comfortable doing the whole Switzerland thing anymore. Said I shouldn't raise the tickets and go anywhere. Little holiday like, maybe take a fella. Bishop, what would I need to be seeing Swiss mountains for, eh? Certainly with no bloke. Thing is, that's another book that I've been reading and all. That Bible. Not for any spiritual purposes and that, but I do like the stories. And I said to Grumps, I said, listen, I know what to say about it, these Christians, but I'm sure none of them could explain to me what is so different about Jesus knowing all too well what that Judas fella had planned for him, going along with it anyway, knowing he was going to die at the end. How's that any different to a suicide? And if Jesus did it, well, then if God really does take issue with a man deciding to take his own life, you've got a grounds for a charge of nepotism. That's what I said. One rule for your lad and another for the rest of us, is it? Grumps said it were a good question, but he didn't fancy getting involved in no court action against some deity, which I thought was a fair point. So yeah, like I said, I did it. It weren't a decision I took lightly either, despite what's being said about me. And listen, I'm not about to start pointing fingers, naming names, no. But quite frankly, Auntie Sonia ain't got a bloody clue what she's on about. I was lying there all night weighing it up, and I must have written about 1,000 pros and cons list. I ripped the spine right out of the Ellicott notebook, I weighing it up that much. And she's out there spreading rumours like I'd done it gladly. Well, I didn't. The bedroom floor looked like I'd played a game of paper toss with the world's shittiest hand-eye coordination. There were that many scrunched up drafts and this list all over it. We're down to my last 2 pages of the Hello Kitty, and the light was just starting to peek in through the blinds when, listen to this, I hear this tapping on tap to the window. Tap, tap, tap. Like that. I get out of bed, right, and I pull the blinds up, and I'm face to face with this fuck off crow wrapping its big old beak onto glass, like it wanting letting in. And I thought, bollocks to that, she just didn't size the bugger. But it reminded me of a story that Grumps had told us. He had a story for just about any occasion, and I was reminded of this one because it was about how he befriended a pair of crows whilst he was stuck hawking on the streets of Tangiers. He used to steal money for him in exchange for breadcrumbs. Crow man of Gibraltar, he said they called him over there. And these two birds eventually earned him enough cash to pay his way back onto the ferry to Europe. Well, after that, he always said to me, he said, Stella, you ever see a crow, you think of me. That there is my bloody spirit animal, I'm telling you. So here I was, lying in bed with this whole dilemma going on in my head, and the bleeding crow man himself is just down to Orway, and then there's a ruddy great crow tapping at the window, which ain't ever happened before. And listen, I've never usually been one of them types to say that I'm a great believer in fate or symbolism or any of that, but you do have to admit that it looked like old Mrs. Universe was sending me some sort of sign that morning. So that's when I decided. I took the sign and I went next door and I smothered Grumps with pillow, because you see, after all that business with Father Michael and what Grumps was saying about suicide, that I figured if it were me that did it without him knowing, then on the off chance that there is some heaven, there'd be no issue with the way that he clocked out down here, and he'd be through them pearly gates in time for his tea. Religion seems full of them kind of loopholes, don't it? Grumps didn't put up much of a fight, but then tetraplegics tend not to. And I know that there'll be folk who take umbrage with it, but it was what he would have wanted deep down. I was doing him a kindness, and I do truly believe that. It's just about the only thing keeping me going. Hey, listen to this and all. Not 24 hours after I did it, I found out that my cousin Janine went and dropped a sprog in the bathroom of the Harvester just out onto the retail park. One of those ghost pregnancies you hear about. Well, Janine were halfway through a chicken dinner with what she thought was just a bout of indigestion. Of course, Auntie Sonia were near enough one pot blood vessel away from an aneurysm when she found out her own daughter with a child out of wedlock. That's the cardinal sin as far as Sonia's concerned. Well, it weren't least until she heard what I did to Grumps. But guess what she said to Janine into maternity ward? She said, that kid better be the son of bloody God's young lady, or you're nothing but a 10-a-piece trollop. To her own daughter, on the day she gives birth to a new bab. Couldn't believe it when I heard. Having been on more than a few nights out with my cousin, I can tell you, I know it's one more likely the case, because she ain't no Virgin Mary. Thing is, it got me rethinking about all the reincarnation business that we've been reading about, and I can't help thinking, I mean, the way I see it, well, it's obvious, ain't it? This magic new bab appears a day after our Grumps passes on. Well, it's just him coming back to us, ain't it? Because I don't care what some folk could say, but I know that we were the most important thing in the world to him. And there is no way that he could have settled himself down in heaven knowing that we still needed looking after. So I do. Yeah. I truly believe that he's come back to us. Of course, Auntie Sonia ain't letting me 10 mile near the new bab. She says I'm going to hell in a handcart for what I did. But then again, quite frankly, our Auntie Sonia can go fuck herself. I know it was what needed doing. I do. And I still think back to that bloody crow on the windowsill. Tap, bloody tap. And you just can't ignore something like that, can you? It's like Grumps always said. Universe is a kinky old bitch. Except what he should have told me is that it's her having a load of fun with us, not the other way around. And when I get the chance, I'll teach that to the little one, I think.